Welcome to a space where cultura, creativity, and real life collide. I'm Yomi, your host of Sip Happens, where I bring you unfiltered conversations on mental health, self discovery, and everything in between. Make sure y'all tune in, like, subscribe, comment, and join my conversation. See y'all next episode.
Ese gallo de Quisqueya es de pura calidad, siempre, siempre pica bueno y la cola dentada. Goya, Victor, Victor.
Welcome to Sip Happens. I'm your host, Yomi, and today's episode is personal. It's about something we all feel at some point, but not enough to talk about, which is our mental health. May is a mental health awareness month, and I wanted to break the silence around my own journey and things that I've done to help me get better and better my mental health. In this episode, I want to make sure that I'm giving you guys tips. I want to make sure that I'm also maybe giving you guys a couple pointers that will help you in your own mental health or maybe even inspire you to do things that will either better you in your mental health, better you overall, or just little tips that maybe you can carry on throughout your day. So make sure you grab your drink, take a breath, and let's talk. So let's unpack our journey. So let me take you back a little bit in a time where I felt like I wasn't fully understanding what was happening in my life and things that were going on. So as most of y'all may know, I am a mom, and during that time, I was going through a lot of things, right? So I was just trying to find myself in being a mom and being who I am. And also, for y'all that don't know, of course, me and my son's father, we just try to like co-parent and things like that. But I also feel like during that time, I was just going through a lot of anxiety, having depression, which made me want to like seek a therapist because I feel like I was so tuned into my anxiety and my thoughts that I didn't know how to get out of it. I feel like I experienced so many things that I was just like, how am I going to face them? How am I going to be like, okay, I'm okay, everything's okay, I'm safe. I feel like during that time, I was just so like trying to focus on being a better me, being a better mom, being an example. And I think sometimes, at least being a mom, you kind of get caught up in everything you have going on that you don't really take care of yourself. So I think something that I started doing that helped me take care of myself was journaling. So I've been very big about like journaling since I was really young. Since I can remember, honestly, I used to like love telling my mom like, oh, buy me a new journal. And it used to be like the little furry journals with the little lock and you have a little key and things like that. So I recall since I've been little, like I've always been faithful on journaling and making sure that writing out my feelings kind of just helps me being a better person, or a better me, I would say. And I think journaling just kind of helped me express my feelings and learn how to communicate because I feel like it's very important in any type of relationship, either like a loving relationship, a friendship, friendships at work or things like that. I feel like it's always important to have like healthy communication styles. And I think that that kind of just helped me form who I wanted to be. So things that help me, I would say, is definitely the journaling, definitely making sure that whatever I was writing down, I was kind of going back to making sure I could understand my thoughts at the time because I think processing your thoughts is also very important. And sometimes, I had my days where like I didn't want to talk to anyone and I felt like, damn, are people gonna judge me because I don't feel like talking? But I slowly came to realize like that's okay. Like my living situation, I live with my family and things like that. So I think that sometimes I felt like I would come in the crib and I would just want to shut down. I wouldn't want to talk to anyone, or I had my moments where I just wanted to lock myself in the room. And sometimes I felt guilty about doing that. But I also think that that's also a process of your mental health, right? Like you want to be able to process your own feelings, process your own thoughts. And I feel like sometimes it's okay if you don't feel like talking to other people. And I also think it's okay to communicate that. Like you can let people know like, hey, I'm not having a great day, so I'm just not going to be as vocal or I'm not going to be as communicative. And I think that kind of just lets other people know, like, okay, like she just needs some time to herself, or she's going through something that she just needs some time to regroup and get herself together. I think the power of vulnerability kind of helps you kind of establish where you are in your life. Because I think being vulnerable is something that is important. Like, I know some people take that as maybe weakness, but I've come to realize as an adult that vulnerability is actually a strength. It's something where you can really go and be like, okay, I'm being vulnerable. I'm telling you how I feel and what I want to do, and how I want to react to this. So I feel like, in a way, it's kind of strength. Like, I know vulnerability can sometimes to people be like, oh, it's a weakness. It's something that I don't want to share because I may be judged or someone may look at me a different way. But if you really sit down and think as an adult, vulnerability is something that is needed in our world, especially with now type of days. Like, not a lot of people show their true self. Not a lot of people show the raw in them. You know, I feel like some people just kind of try to put a persona or try to, I would say, maybe put something like a shield or a wall up that isn't really who they are. So I think that vulnerability is something that we all as adults need to learn to understand, that it is okay to be vulnerable. It is okay to show how you truly feel. It is okay to be raw and express your feelings and just let it out how you think is a positive way to let it out. I'm very big on positive communication, effective communication. I think without it, there is no solution. So anytime I have a problem with someone or an issue or a discussion with someone, either if it's romantic, friendship, or anything like that, I feel like I'm always big on addressing the issue, saying how it made you feel, and then from there, coming up with a solution, right? So, for example, like if I'm arguing with my boyfriend or something like that, like I'll address to him what the issue is, how it made me feel, and how he can change it, or what can change in our relationship in order for it to go better the next time. So I think that's something you guys can apply, right? So with any relationship, doesn't have to be romantic. It can be with personal, it can be with friendship, it can be with your family, it can be at work. I think the first thing you should do is acknowledge the issue. Step one is acknowledge the issue, right? Step two for me would be acknowledge how it made you feel. And step three is a solution, right? So how you think moving forward things can change, how you think moving forward things can be avoided in order for it to not make you feel some type of way. So I think that's very important too. I've come to the realization that sometimes when you address the issue and keep talking about how it made you feel, how it made you feel, like that's cool. But I also think that sometimes us as adults, we forget that when there's an issue, we should come up with a resolution, with a solution, so that we can move forward and become better or learn from the experience. Because you just staying in your state of, oh, it made me feel this type of way, it made me feel this type of way, you're not growing if you don't come up with a solution. So I think solutions is very important. And if you want to be vulnerable, I also think that that's very important too. You want to make sure that you're being raw and you're being vulnerable so that people can understand where you're coming from. I think vulnerability is a way for you to show connection with other people. It's a way for you to make sure people understand you in a sense, I would say. Because sometimes when people act too tough or things like that, I feel like it's hard for people to connect with you. So I feel like once people see, or whoever you're speaking to at the moment sees any vulnerability, they're like, okay, let me lock in and see what they really have to say. I think it's just important with everyone's learning process. It's something that you kind of just learn. And I also think that vulnerability is a power. I feel like it invites people to want to engage with you. It invites people to want to understand where you're coming from. And of course, sometimes when you're going through those things, like, you don't want to be judged. And I don't think anybody that's being vulnerable should ever think that they are being judged. I feel like they should think that okay, I'm being vulnerable. I hope that this person takes that message and can apply what I think needs to be done. Sometimes you may have your moments where, depending on the person you're speaking to, you may be like, okay, I don't want to open up, or I don't want to be vulnerable because I'm scared they're going to judge me, or I'm scared they're going to think I'm overreacting, or things like that. And I feel like sometimes me as an overthinker, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people that may be viewing this are overthinkers. I think like me as an overthinker, something I've learned is you kind of have to like brush the overthinking to the side and be like, okay, I'm being vulnerable. I'm expressing how I feel. And I hope that the person that I'm speaking to understands the message. Because sometimes when you overthink, I think it can also cause you to self-sabotage. And I feel like self-sabotaging is something that I've been working on. Self-sabotage is something that you may not even notice that you're doing. You know, self-sabotage is something that when you're either being vulnerable or you're doing things that you're not used to, you're overthinking, you're being like, oh my gosh, are they gonna think this about me, think that about me, you know? And I feel like sometimes maybe it's okay to take a step back and just understand, like, you know what, I'm okay, being vulnerable is okay, and if they judge me, that's a reflect on them, it's not a reflect on me, because I'm being as raw as possible as I can be. So a couple of tips for us real people. I want to make sure that we get into that and talk about it. So I want to make sure we talk about tools, because sometimes I feel like some people forget about the tools or the resources that they can use. And some things that have worked for me, like I mentioned earlier in this conversation, is journaling, meditating. I would also say drink a lot of water. So make sure y'all drinking water, because water plays a big impact in your body. Like, outside of staying hydrated, I just think that like water is great. It flushes everything out. It helps you clean everything in your body. I also think that eating better also pours into your energy. So me personally, like eating, like, yeah, I love eating my wings, eating my fries, eating fried food and all that. But during the week, I would say I at least try to eat good. What I mean by good is like salads, or like eat a lot of veggies and fruit and things that would, I know, help my body become positive. So if you think about it, I feel like it's all about where you start, right? And what I mean by that is, imagine the food that you're intaking. If you're always eating chips, if you're always eating fried food, if you're always eating things that aren't good for your body, like, do you really expect for your mood to be in a good mood? Do you really expect for your body to have a positive impact in what you're doing if you're not even giving your body or pouring into your body what it needs? I will even say, I feel like not recently, but I would say months ago, I started like eating right and things like that, especially during the week. My body would literally tell me like, yo, instead of eating Chipotle, for example, for lunch, I need a salad today. And like, I feel like I try to reciprocate that to my body. Like, your body will tell you if you have a habit of eating good, like eating your veggies, eating fruit and things like that, your body will literally tell you what it needs. Like, I've had my days where I'm like, oh, I'm about to go, like on Fridays when I get paid or something, I'll be like, I want to go to Wingstop. And my body be like, no, I need a salad. So I'm like, okay, I'm about to go get a salad instead of Wingstop, you know? So it's just little things like that. Like, listen to your body, listen to what it's telling you, because it's literally communicating with you in a sense of what I need in order to be the best version of myself, right? So I feel like some things that people forget is you have to pour positive things into yourself to get a positive outcome. Something I'm big on saying as well is like the definition of insanity, right? It's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So how do you expect to be eating out all day, or not all day, I'm sorry, but eating out all the time, eating chips, eating snacks, anything that you shouldn't be eating, and then you expect your body to just be up and going when you're ready to go to the gym or things like that, you know? Like, you really have to make sure that you're paying attention to what you're pouring into your body. And another thing that has helped me also is the gym. Like, the gym has been a positive, I would say a positive activity that I've been doing in my life. Like I mentioned earlier before, therapy has also been something that has been a positive impact in my life. I know at first it's a little weird, um, but I think it saved me or reminded me of who I am and what I want to achieve in life. So, like I mentioned earlier, journaling, the gym, um, meditating, staying true to myself. And also, sometimes too, like I know people, when they talk about journaling, I know people are like, ugh, I don't want to sit down with a pen and paper. But, bro, you can literally pull out your phone, pull out your notes, and just type. Like, I know everyone's, or a good amount of people are like hooked to their phone. So, like, even if you don't have time for a pen and paper, like, you can pull out your notes on your phone and just type your feelings, type how you're feeling, how something made you feel. I feel like that's always a good representation of yourself. Even if it made you mad, write it down. If it made you sad, write it down. If it made you happy, write it down. I just think those are tips that everyone can use. And even if you're not used to journaling, I think journaling is a good way of expressing yourself. Like some things that I do too, especially for work, like if I know I'm getting ready to go into a meeting or something and I have to either deliver metrics or things like that, I make sure that I make notes of highlights of positive things that I feel like has contributed to my success, or I also make notes of things that I feel like, okay, this happened, which wasn't a success, but this is what I want to do to improve it. So, like I mentioned earlier, it's addressing the situation, addressing how it made you feel, and coming up with a solution so it doesn't happen next time. You know, you want to make sure that you are taking those 3 steps. You're addressing the issue, you're addressing how it made you feel, and you're coming up with a solution of it not to happen moving forward. Or if it does happen, you know how to react in that way. Like, you know, be like, okay, this happened, this is how it made me feel. So moving forward, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. You know, so make sure that you are taking those 3 steps into processing everything you have going on, either romantically, personally, at work, career, anything like that. If you took anything, I would say, for granted, make sure that you never take yourself for granted. Make sure that you're always checking into yourself. You're always pouring into yourself. You know, without you, you wouldn't have you, right? So you want to make sure that you take care of yourself. That you make sure that you pour into yourself and have that healthy relationship with yourself, so you can have a healthy relationship with other people, because it all starts with you. And I want to make sure that all of you guys understand that. Something else I would like to say too, if you took anything from this episode, let it be this: that you don't have to wait for a breakdown to happen to seek health. You don't have to, to seek help. You don't have to wait for stuff to hit the fan in order for you to be like, okay, let me go get some help. Let me go see what I can do. Like, if you can see yourself spiraling, if you can see yourself not going in the right direction, that should be your absolute red flags to be like, okay, let me go talk to someone about this. Let me go seek help. Let me go try to journal. Let me go try to work out. Let's talk and recap about the tools that will help you just better your mental health. As I mentioned earlier, the 3 steps into acknowledging a situation or a disagreement or things like that, I would say, is addressing the situation, addressing how it made you feel, and coming up with a solution so that you don't feel like that the next time, right? So I feel like it's very important to prevent those things. If you feel like you're coming to a disagreement, if you're like you're coming to a place where you're not agreeing with the other person, it's very important to follow those 3 steps. I also think like it's very important for you to find something that makes you feel comfortable, which is maybe journaling. If you feel like you're having a rough day or if you're having a great day, write it down. Meditating is something else I would say, that maybe sometimes just in a quiet room, you're just meditating, making sure you're hearing your body and what it's telling you to do. Something else I would say too is the gym. So the gym is something that I've been very big on, not for my physical appearance, but for my mental health. I think it's been something that has made me happy physically and mentally. It makes me feel like I can accomplish more things than normal. I feel like sometimes it just makes me feel like, okay, if I did this, I can do this. Like, especially during, for example, like during my reps or something, if I got to do like 4 sets of 10, sometimes I'll do like 4 sets of 12 or 15 just to be like, you know what, I just did that. Like, you know what I mean? And I feel like that just boosts your confidence. It boosts your self-awareness. It boosts everything you have going on in your life. And I would also say make sure that you're drinking a lot of water, because filling your body with water is important. Make sure you're staying hydrated, eating better, making sure you're eating your veggies and your fruits. You want to make sure that you're giving your body what it needs, and your body will tell you what it needs. Like, I've had my days where I'm just like, I want to eat Wingstop, but my body's telling me I need a salad. You know what I mean? So make sure that you listen to your body and you listen to what it's telling you that you need. One last thing I would like to say is, if you took anything from this episode, make sure that you took tips on how to better yourself. Make sure that you took tips on how to just better your mental health overall, how to better you as a person, whether that's therapy, whether that's journaling, whether that's eating better, whether that's drinking your gallon of water, you know what I mean, while you're at work. Just make sure that you're taking those things into consideration. Make sure that you also know that you are worth it, that you are important. Everything that you do for yourself is important, and you want to make sure that you're just giving yourself all the love that you can, and making sure that you pour into yourself in a healthy manner, so that way you pouring into yourself in a healthy manner also allows you to pour into others in a healthy way as well. So making sure that you come first, you put yourself first and second, and everything else comes third, because without you there is nothing. So I want to make sure that if you are doing those things to make you feel better, feel free to share your story with me, with your friends. I do want to start something with my podcast as well, is where Sip Happens is starting a healthy healing journey, where if you want to maybe share your story with me and things like that, and I can talk about it on my podcast, or if you ever want to share about things that you were going through and things that helped you accomplish those things, please share it with me. I would love to hear about it. I would love to take either tips from you taking tips from me, and just empowering our community in general. As y'all may know, that my podcast is all about empowering men and women, making sure that everyone feels good about themselves emotionally, mentally, and physically. So make sure y'all tune into Sip Happens on all podcast platforms. Make sure that y'all also tune into my YouTube, subscribe, like, share, and I'll see y'all next episode.